Welcome back. Developing now, the daughter of former VP Dick Cheney tells MSNBC the interrogation methods used by the Bush administration, in her thoughts, were not torture.
Well, it wasn't torture, Nora, so that's not the right way to lay out the argument.
Okay.
Everything that was done in this program, as has been laid out and described before, are tactics that our own people go through in SEER training, and that our own people have gone through for many years. So it's really does a fundamental disservice to those professionals who are conducting this very effective program and to those people who approved the program in order to keep this nation safe and prevented attacks through the program to call it torture.
And joining me from Washington is Ilyse Hogue, Communications Director for MoveOn.org. MoveOn has a new ad that is pressuring the Obama administration to prosecute people involved with waterboarding. And that is the ad there. And also with us is Freire, Managing Editor with the American Spectator. So, Ilyse, I want to get your thoughts first on what Liz Cheney had to say. She is repeating what many others with the Republican Party have said recently about these tactics, which, by the way, Republican John Boehner just today called torture.
Yeah. I was going to start with the point that even Representative Boehner called it torture. Look, Tamara, I think we're beyond the point of debating whether this is torture, and the key points that we were here to make with this ad, and that our 5 million members, along with the majority of Americans, believe is using torture tactics does not make us safer. In fact, it breaks the rules of law of our land that has made us a great country. And the best way to address this, put it behind us, and not repeat the mistakes of the past is to appoint a special prosecutor to do a full investigation into these tactics.
JP, let me get you in on the conversation. You've got Defense Secretary Robert Gates saying he did support the release of those so-called torture memos, essentially because he said they'd eventually come out anyway. The developments are right now possibly moving forward with Attorney General Eric Holder. What are your thoughts at this point? I mean, there are 3 options said to be here, and one of them, obviously, is something of a truth commission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned about the discussion of torture primarily because it doesn't seem like we've engaged in any of it. What it does seem like we've engaged in is something that's called intensive interrogation.
Do you disagree with Boehner?
But hold on. I will. Yeah.
How do you define
hold on
torture?
A second. Now, what's also important is that when we discuss these memos, that we need to discuss them within the context of other memos that were available at the time. It seems like the Obama administration has only released memos that are relevant to his point of view. We haven't seen a CIA effectiveness memo. We haven't seen whether or not these tactics were actually effective according to the CIA and the military that were using them. So I think that that's a problem overall for the case. If we want this to be a fair debate, we need to have as much information out on the table. But it seems that we're not going to get that kind of a debate because this is political. This is not actually trying to figure out how to keep Americans safe. Because if it were, we'd be getting more information.
I want to play something else Liz Cheney had to say about Attorney General Eric Holder. Let's play that sound.
He said that he had not seen the memos or any memos talking about the effectiveness of this program. And I think it's very important for people to ask the question, had the president, before President Obama made the decision to release the tactics and the techniques, had nobody reviewed the effectiveness of the program? Had his attorney general and the president himself looked at whether, in fact, these programs had gained intelligence that was critical for for the security of the nation?
Ilyse, so you heard JP kind of say the same thing, that there are people out there who still are willing and wanting to debate whether these tactics, whatever you want to call them, Boehner said torture today, as we keep pointing out, if they worked or not.
Look, I'm going to defer to FBI Director under President Bush, Robert Mueller, who actually said very clearly that these tactics are not effective and yielding useful information. In fact, the most useful information that we yielded in the last 7 years, keeping our country safe, came from traditional interrogation tactics. What's more, we know that the use of torture has eroded the moral fabric of our country. Tamara, you know what? I am with JP on this. We want to see a thorough investigation that brings everything to light. So, JP, will you join us in calling for a special prosecutor?
Many people believe that is why we're at this point, that the president may have listened heavily to what organizations like MoveOn.org had to say about this. But I want to fast forward to prosecution.
I just don't think there should be a political prosecution.
I would like to fast forward to prosecution here. Ilyse, where does it end? You have now proof, or at least reports, that Condoleezza Rice was aware of this, Donald Rumsfeld, Colin Powell, someone who later obviously endorsed the current president.
You just want heads to roll. You just want heads to roll. That's all you care about. You don't want to get down to the truth. Because if you actually wanted, excuse me, hold on, let me just get in here for a second.
This is a moral issue.
If you were genuinely concerned about the actual truth of what was going on, you would be interested in seeing the memos in terms of effectiveness. You would be asking about memos in terms of the actual practices. You would be concerned about about the legal language that was employed. But instead what you're saying is you actually want President Obama to go back on his word to the CIA, where he told the CIA that they have his full support. And you want to prosecute people who were doing what they felt was in the best interests of their country and were being told by the lawyers that it was something that they could do. That, to me, is political prosecution. It is nothing else.
Can that be avoided, Ilyse?
We absolutely want a thorough investigation. We think a special prosecutor who's independent from the White House, appointed by Attorney General
There doesn't need to be an investigation.
There
just needs to be memos released.
All of the information to light and understand who was involved and how far it goes. And yes, absolutely, we believe those that architected, that authorized, and that justified torture in the name of our country deserve to be held accountable.
Okay, well, we're out of time, but
obviously
we're out of time, but the conversation is not over, and we'll keep talking about it and have you both back on as we see what this administration does next. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara.
And more on the debate over torture, obviously, this weekend. Moderator